Hello and welcome to Power to the People with me, Graeme Pryce. Most people change over time, don't they? I don't mean change from being a vaguely annoying posh idiot to the worst Prime Minister in history like Boris Johnson did. No, I mean they fundamentally change as people. Some don't, of course. There are a few political characters that seem to have taken up a persona of some sort and intend to run with it forever. Jacob Rees-Mogg is still essentially the same identical twit he was in the year 2000. He looks less like a praying mantis in a Savile Row suit and more like the Grim Reaper in his Sunday best now, but he's consistent. Consistently awful, but consistent. Well, today's subject is another ex-Tory, but this one has been consistently awful since long before Jacob Rees-Mogg was even born with a silver spoon up his arse. I would guess the ratio of comments that say only 5 is going to be exceptionally high for this video as I try to narrow down the long and deplorable career of the Right Honourable Dame Anne Widdicombe into 5 of the most convincing reasons I think she is a twat. Will I be able to do it? I suppose we'll find out right after this. I was just looking at my channel analytics and I noticed that 53% of people who watch my videos weren't subscribed. The pain. Come on, just have a quick check that you've subbed, liked and rang the bell. Make a skinny old scouser a little bit happier today. Apparently, the gods that looked down upon us decided in 1947 that we hadn't suffered enough during the Second World War, and they bestowed Anne Widdicombe upon us. She started her early schooling in Singapore because her father worked for the Ministry of Defence, but she eventually ended up in a convent school, La Sainte Union Convent School in Bath. Not Bath, Bath. A private school, of course. You'd think a lady who'd been given a religious upbringing and attended a girls-only educational institution, let alone witnessed the rise of girl power in the 90s, would have a proud feminist outlook, wouldn't you? Well, she doesn't. In fact, she's been quite spectacularly rude and horrible about many women who have attempted to illustrate the inequality in their lives or demonstrate the discrimination they face. Anne has accused them of being very trivial whingers. And she's also said that the victims of Harvey Weinstein made a choice. That's on them. It goes back years though. She left the Church of England because they changed the rules to allow lady priests to be ordained in 2012. And as far back as 1996, she made a opposition to a motion to end a law that allowed pregnant women to be shackled at the wrists and ankles during childbirth in the middle of a debate. It's hard to follow that one, but she seems to have really gone off the rails like a big saggy old runaway train of hatred in 2018, and she's come out with some hideously old-fashioned and offensive statements against women's rights and women in general since then. She thinks women exist to stay at home and have children, so you can tell she's not somebody who's concerned or knows anything about the cost of living or the cost of childcare. Can't you? She's claimed that the gender pay gap is a myth, despite it being supported by irrefutable proof. More lately, she's said that women are becoming wimpish these days, wallowing in self-pity, expecting men always to protect us. I think Anne's overestimating herself a little bit there. I'd be very, very surprised if there are any men that want to protect her from anything. I think they can probably tell she's perfectly capable of frightening any man off. She's got a face that could drain the colour out of rainbows, hasn't she? speaking of which, Mrs. Widdicombe really hates gay people. All kinds of gay people. Old ones, young ones, rich ones, poor ones, camp ones, and famous ones. When appearing on Celebrity Big Brother in 2018, she described another contestant as disgusting when he asked her opinion on his same-sex relationship. And in 2019, she claimed being gay is an illness that science might yet find a cure for. This is a woman that held 2 ministerial positions in Tory government once. She's been vocal in her support of gay conversion therapies several times over the years because, of course, she fucking has. And she's consistently spoke out against and voted against same-sex marriage. She's refused to attend the marriages of some of her celebrity friends because they were same-sex marriages. I'd imagine you'd have to be scraping the bottom of the fucking barrel for company to invite her, but apparently some people have, and she's refused to go. I think we'll see out this one of these 5 reasons with this quote from her when she was asked why she thinks gay people oppose conversion therapy. This is what she said. The unhappy homosexual should, according to gay activists, be denied any chance whatsoever to investigate any possibility of seeing if he can be helped to become heterosexual. She still doesn't get it, does she? She thinks being gay can be turned off and on by having a chat with a psychiatrist, apparently. I'm not surprised she doesn't know anything about sexuality or relationships. She's probably had cobwebs in her drawers since 1976, but you'd think she'd understand that it isn't a choice by her age, wouldn't you? Good Lord. Anna's had a very conservative upbringing, so it's no surprise that she joined the Conservative Party, but religion has also played a huge part in her life. So much so that she was made a Dame of the Order of St. Gregory the Great by Pope Benedict XVI for services to politics and public life in January of 2013. I bet she was so chuffed she kicked a puppy or stamped on a daffodil or something. She wouldn't kick a cat, obviously. She likes cats, and I don't think that'll come as a surprise to anybody, really. I mean, I like cats, but never in my life have I seen somebody who I suspected would reek of cat piss more than Dame Annie Whittleslam. My late mother had a saying, and you'll still hear it now occasionally, especially in Liverpool. In fact, my auntie still says it sometimes. God save us from a good Christian. She thought you invariably find that the more religious somebody is, the less likely they are to be a decent and sane and balanced individual. I think the existence of good Christians like Mrs. Widdicombe, or Ms. Widdicombe, we should say, bears testament to the statement, doesn't it? Anna's been very vocal in her opposition of abortion over the years. She's spoken at loads of anti-abortion events, and she's consistently held an opinion on it, to be fair. Just like her ignorance and uninformed views of sexuality, though, she has no experience of needing an abortion either. She does have plenty to say about it, though, and she's insisted her view is not based on religion, but obviously she's a fucking liar. She's right-wing, she's going to be a liar, isn't she? She's clearly being dishonest because she's very vocally opposed to everything right back to embryo research and even stem cell research. I've spent a bit more time than I'd like to admit listening to the anti-abortion debate rage in America lately. And I have to say, the only people I've heard who hold the same position as Anne Widdicombe are the really religious and unscientifically minded people. I'm aware there is a debate to be had I don't doubt that there's some viewers that will, have different opinions on abortion, and I don't mind if anybody disagrees with me on this one. I think abortion should be legal in the first 20 weeks, and then after that, only available if there is an immediate risk to the health or life of the mother or child. I'm no expert though, and I could be wrong. Let me know in the comments if you think I'm way off the mark with that one, but I certainly think Anne Widdicombe is way off the mark by basing a whole view on it on a 2,000-year-old religious book of metaphors, tomes, tales and anecdotes. It's the hypocrisy that annoys me, because it's always people like this, far-right ranting harridans that squawk the loudest about abortion and how every life is sacred from conception. And then they go away and vote to make the lives of single mothers or low-income families harder and harder and poorer over and over again. Speaking of which, you may have observed that I'm fond of a little repetition and a bit of tradition in my videos, and as such we have come to the inevitable moment upon which all MPs of any party are judged upon their voting record. We must give our eternal thanks to the Hansard report and the frantic scribes that update it with continual bullshit and buffoonery that spills out of our politicians. For it gives us irrefutable record of their twattishness, now and forever. We've already established that Anne Widdicombe is extremely homophobic, so it's no surprise that she voted against laws to increase the rights of LGBT people 6 times. She missed one vote though. She must have been in church pretending to be human that day. She voted against measures to make it easier for women to access abortions 6 times as well, which is no shocker given the last section. And she consistently voted against people being given assistance to end their lives too. She's claimed this was because she cares about the elderly or those not in control of their own faculties enough to make a decision. She's lying again. Religion strikes there. That's what that's all about. She voted for the hunting ban, which is quite surprising, really, isn't it? You'd think she'd be a fan of the idea of defenceless animals being ripped apart by a much posher and powerful beast. But she also voted against anything to do with climate change repeatedly, and she claims it doesn't exist because when she looks out of her window, she can't see it. No, seriously, that's what she's said. She seems to have missed a hell of a lot of votes during her time in office. But I have found this to be relatively common with MPs that were around during the last Tory government in the late or mid or early 90s. They might not have been as utterly evil and far right as they are now, but apparently they were lazy bastards instead. Or maybe there is genuinely a lot more voting now. Who knows? But I think it's a lot more likely that they were just lazy bastards back then. They'd been in office for years getting away with whatever they liked, and they'd already pushed through most of their more evil and destructive legislature in the 80s, hadn't they? Before Widdicombe was even elected. I tell you what though, I think we know how she'd have voted if she'd have been around during the times when Ian Duncan Smith pushed through his welfare reforms. We often find that MPs who were around in that time were forced to vote 30, 40 times to reduce benefits and welfare. And I doubt she'd have been any different. And I doubt she'd have had any conscience about it either. Especially in light of some other things she's said over the years. What a horrible bitch, eh? There's an elephant in this room. A massive, big, ugly, saggy elephant with an insanely annoying, querulous voice. And I'll tell you what, it fucking stinks. It stinks to high heaven of hypocrisy. And its name is Brexit. Anne Widdicombe has tried to cultivate a persona of being a steadfast Christian lady who sticks to her principles and speaks her mind. Her followers say she tells it like it is. However, she doesn't tell it like it is. She tells it like a distorted, deranged idiot of a woman who is vastly out of touch with reality and normality. She was never particularly sane and normal or decent, but she seems to have gone really off the rails since the Brexit referendum. And since her return to politics, she's represented some of the worst and most dishonest political movements of the last decade. Like Farage, the froggy bastard himself, she actually managed to become an MEP, a member of the European Parliament, at one point. At which stage she made a speech comparing Brexit to the emancipation of slavery. Obviously, she could no longer be an MEP when we had left the European Union, but she made sure to disrespect the whole institution before leaving, saying, "It doesn't matter which language you use, we are going, and we are glad to be going." Yeah, okay, Anne. During the Brexit campaign, she was continually platformed and given the opportunity to use terms like Project Fear and Remoaners, and was quite happy to suggest that the UK public should accept hunger and poverty and economic struggle for the sake of sovereignty. She also did Nigel Farage's trick of continually talking about the UK making its own laws, when it is absolutely not possible for her to have been a member of the European Parliament and not be fully aware that there was absolutely nothing at all stopping the UK making its own laws as part of the EU. Nothing at all. I suppose that could be the moment to wrap this up, ending on irrefutable proof that Dame Widdicombe, the good Christian lady, spent months repeatedly, deliberately and knowingly spreading disinformation to millions of people. How very holy of her. Eh? Thank you for watching if you've gotten this far. I didn't want to bang on too much about the Brexit aspect. I know it's something that has become well acquainted to the antics of Anne Wiggles scum. But there's plenty of other reasons that she is a total shit stain on society, as I hope I've illuminated for you today. She really is a spectacularly spiteful, enormously ignorant, unjustly judgmental and utterly unredeemable character by the standards of any decent person. A woman who has spent her life demeaning and discriminating and has now joined the leagues of liars and racists that make up Reform UK. A woman whose own reflection probably finds her offensive when she looks in the mirror in the morning. I certainly find her offensive, and I'm glad to be adding her to the 5 Reasons playlist. It's long overdue. I always do a shout out in a 5 Reasons video, and I don't think I've mentioned Matt Hooks yet, have I? He's been a follower for a long, long time, and it's very much appreciated. Thank you, sir. If you've had a chuckle at the malevolence of Anne Widdicombe with me and would like to support the channel, you'll find links to PayPal, Patreon and the Buy Me a Coffee page religiously residing in the descriptions box. And the join button for memberships is, as always, below. Now, that isn't all I have to say, but it is as much of what I've got to say as I'm going to say today. Ta-ra. But she seemed to really go off the rails after Brexit and has since returned to politics to represent some of the worst and most dishonest political, I'm talking absolute bollocks here, aren't we? Political movements. What do you reckon political movements are, Anne?